people will start to look into Bitcoin more and more because they'll have no option. Cash is devaluing exponentially, and that's for the whole world.
Do you think money printing is theft?
Yes, it absolutely is theft. It's the definition of theft. Bitcoin is the perfect ruler for humans to measure things in. It's giving the power back to the people. Humans deserve to live in peace and freedom. Bitcoin is here to fix the problems of humanity. It's akin to fire. It's akin to electricity being discovered, invented. It's akin to motor vehicles. It's akin to flight that interconnected the whole world. Memorize your seed so you can be truly sovereign.
You told me before we started recording about high school, and you said something that is really, really resonated with me. You said high school felt like prison to you.
Yeah. When I have nightmares, sometimes you have nightmares. I wake up, like, oh, I'm so relieved because my nightmare was a scenario where I was in high school, and it's not, I love my friends. I had so much fun with my friends after school. I started skipping class, hanging out with all of them, playing sports. But the boring part was the subjects that the teachers were teaching, and God bless them, they did a good job, but I felt like it wasn't something that I loved.
How did you come out of that? Like you said, like you started then working in a roofing company.
Yeah, so my buddy's dad had a roofing company. At that point of my life, I was already doing kind of part-time work every other day in a little market where, convenience store for Latinos. And so one day my buddy's dad walks in and he's like, hey, I need someone to work, because that's where people advertise, in those bodegas. And I told him, roofing? I think I want to work, and the very next weekend I was up there in the roof with them, nailing, cleaning the ground and making much better money.
I think we underestimate what freedom is, and if you find freedom when we do something we love, and I think we talked about before. We had the podcast with Gary Cardone recently, and we talked about like if you just do it for the money, if there's nothing else on the purpose, like you don't enjoy it, you don't have a greater view, like you are basically just like a whore. But
Yeah.
it's a little bit rough to say, but it's basically, for me, it's true. When you only do it for the money, I mean, for a temporary state of time, it's okay, I think, because if you need the money, if you have a temporary stuff,
Right.
but you should work towards something. Which leads me to my first actual question: how free do you think we are? Like, what do you see as the current state of freedom in maybe in the Western world where we are living? Do you see also like a war on freedom, a war on privacy with the stuff going on?
For sure, man. I think as the state's growing, it keeps increasing and it never decreases until a major catastrophe happens, and it sucks to see. But with the new technologies, I'm very hopeful because people, information is all decentralized now. We see that instead of people watching the major propaganda news channels, where back in the 50s and 60s, everyone sat down at night after school, after work, and they watched one channel, and then there were three channels, and everybody watched those channels, and they talked about it the next day. So the propaganda outlets would say whatever the nation had to believe in. And so that's what they believed. And now we have, what, a dozen or 24 different platforms like YouTube, Rumble, Rockfin, and a bunch of different ones too. And within those, you have millions of channels, really, and such as yours. And people consume what they love, so people are happier. So I think I'm very hopeful for the future. But to answer your questions about governments expanding, I think that there is a general war on freedom because everybody wants to impose their worldview in other people. And I was guilty of that myself. And so, when I was a Bible thumping Christian, in my teenage years, I started going to church and read the Bible every day and was obsessed with Jesus, and which is very good. I'm very grateful because that gave me some morals to live by. I got married when I was in my teenage years with my wife. We had our children within wedlock and yada yada, all this stuff. I don't judge if you don't choose to live that lifestyle, but everyone wants the political power to impose their worldview on other people when we could just live and let live, and that's what I think, that's what it stems from, I think.
How do you define freedom? Like, what is freedom for you?
Wow, that's an amazing question. Freedom, okay, it is you doing what you love without ever hurting other people. That's the main point of the American Constitution. It is the only job of the government is to protect life and property. Everything outside of that is an unnecessary, ministry, as they call it. But it keeps expanding because people want to, put more things in place.
And it's also interesting for me when we talk about we want to protect you, and I think the government always uses the excuse, "Oh, we have to protect. There's some
Yeah.
catastrophe. There's something going on. There's some crisis," and they always say like, "We have to protect it." But at some point, we have to say also like, "Oh, it's okay if something fails in that regard." Or like there's an interesting debate that I had recently with belts in cars. Like if you don't have your, like in Austria, I don't know where it is, how it is with you in your country, but when in Austria, when you don't have the belt, like the seat belt tucked in your car, and the police officer stops you, you get a fine for that. Where
Yeah.
I'm,
Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, and this is something where I'm like, can choose myself if I have the seatbelt on or not, because the only person that I can hurt is myself. For me, it's freedom ends there where the other person's freedom starts. Because of that, I cannot drive like with 200 kilometer per hour through the city, because the chances are really high that I hit someone and murder someone. So there's where freedom. That's why speed control makes sense in areas where there are a lot of people. You should not drive too fast because you will hit someone and
Absolutely.
someone will die. But if you don't have your seatbelt on, it's just yourself. Like you will die maybe if something happens, but it's just your freedom. And this is an area where the government don't has to be in there. But sorry, what did you want us to say?
I agree with that, man. That's such an enlightening statement. Because you're not hurting other people. That's exactly what freedom is. As long as you're not hurting other people, destroying their property, then it's it's ultimately your decision. Here in America, we have different states that they make different legislations for each, and the federal government overrides anything if they have to, if they want to, or whatever reason. But in my state, Connecticut, for example, is you have to have a seatbelt. They say click it or ticket, click it or ticket to incentivize people to wear their seatbelts. And the one thing here in Connecticut is that you don't have to wear a helmet. That's the only thing that you don't have to do. Like if you're riding a motorcycle and you want to be without your helmet, you're free to do so. But yeah, there are little tiny examples of that all over the nation. And every state's different, thankfully, which makes me very happy about states legislating their own Bitcoin rules. That's why I want the federal government out of Bitcoin. If your state doesn't want it, fine. But for example, Texas, what was that state that just embedded in their state law that you have the right to mine and run Bitcoin? I forgot the state. Was it Delaware? Anyway, no, it wasn't Delaware. But anyway, that state became the trailblazer on making Bitcoin law to give the freedom to embed it in their constitution to say that people have a right to Bitcoin. And it's pretty obvious they shouldn't, we shouldn't have to make laws about that because Bitcoin is speech. It's code. Code is speech. It was deemed speech during the Clinton era. The American courts ruled that Bitcoin is speech and that everyone have freedom of expression and speech. So Bitcoin is a constitutional right.
100%. And this is something that not a lot of people think about when they say like, oh, but what if the government bans it? If the government actually bans Bitcoin, they are actively banning free speech. Not that they did not try it, like, and they tried it. I think the first time was 2013 with China, and since then we have every year some examples of some state or nation or city or whatever trying to ban Bitcoin. Like this is we are on constant attacks now also with Samurai Wallet and what was that Phoenix Wallet, which was taken off the US app stores. Like we have constant small and bigger attacks on Bitcoin, on privacy, on freedom. But I think as long as we stick together as a freedom group, and keep fighting for that, and which also leads me to my next question, it will be great. It will be good. And I talked with that a few weeks ago also with someone. Even if we lose Bitcoin somehow, we are connected digitally, everybody, and we know we want sound money, we know we want freedom. We will find some other way. We will spin
Mm.
something else up. Like it's not about Bitcoin, it's about sound money and it's about freedom. And of course, Bitcoin is perfect for that. And I think Bitcoin will succeed. But even if it's not, we can still fight it for it. Like, and this is something why I'm so passionate about it, because I made the mindset switch from it's about Bitcoin. No, it's about the principles of Bitcoin, and Bitcoin is the perfect tool, the perfect vehicle for that. And that's why we are so passionate about Bitcoin. This Bitcoin only conferences are not Bitcoin only conferences. These are freedom conferences for me.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's something even way bigger than Bitcoin, and it's really cool. And I'm right now I'm planning in a book where I'm having like what I learned from Bitcoin. And I write a lot about that also, like about the freedom state and what we can do in that. But my question for you, sorry to talk so much. My question for you is, um, you write a lot with Bitcoin fam under the comments. You obviously have this tribe and community thinking a lot in you, and which I find amazing and really cool. How important is that? Like how important is that group thinking, that we are fighting in a tribe for freedom? And what's your reasoning behind writing so much Bitcoin family under posts of us all?
Yeah, so what brought me to Bitcoin was number go up. I remember putting money in and then my money quadrupled. I was like, whoa, what is this? It even
Mm.
startled me, which made me want to learn more and more. It's ultimately, to answer the question, is what attracted me to religion, a family, you know, um, a community, a sense of community, of protection, and of providing protection and encouraging, edifying each other. That's what religion does. It's embedded in the human genome. And I feel like we're not fighting for a specific tribe, but we're fighting for the entire human race. That's my passion.
Mm.
Humans are so beautiful. Humans deserve to be equal. Humans deserve equal opportunity, I should say. Humans deserve to live in peace and freedom. That's why I don't even like to talk about wars, because it wrecks my inside. It's so sad what happens because of these tyrants. And ultimately, it's these tyrants trying to fight against Bitcoin, try to pass anti-Bitcoin laws. And yeah, we also have tyrants here in America. They keep trying to impose their worldview on other people. That's why I'm very open to any culture, open to many to any ideas. I keep my open mind and I analyze what's good and what's bad and take the good from it and leave the bad aside. What made me not be so intense of a Christian anymore? It was when I met a man called Abdullah. He became a very good friend of mine. And I remember just, chatting with him and learning, listening his life story. And he's also an immigrant here. I remember, I remember saying, "Wait, they're human too," And it's such a terrible thing to say, because sometimes when you're locked into one specific group or tribe, you isolate the rest of other people. So what I think Bitcoin will bring for everybody in the world is prosperity, because it's a deflationary money that tyrants cannot inflate it. Banks can't manipulate it. It's decentralized. It's available 24/7 for everyone across the globe. I could send you a Bitcoin transaction right now, go like that, especially in Lightning, right? In the speed of light. And so that's what the beauty of Bitcoin is. It's bringing people together like music, like religion. Religion brings people together, and music and dancing, and just, Bitcoin is that force that's bringing all of humanity together in freedom, liberty, and prosperity.
That's so beautiful. Wow. Really, really cool. You said you immigrated to America too.
Yeah,
How?
my mom brought me here when I was very little. I barely remember Brazil. Yeah, so originally from Brazil. I was born there, but my ancestors are all Italian from both sides, both sets of grandparents. They're all Italian. That's why that's the last name Scavacini. But I have family who goes there every year. It's I gotta go at some point. But I've been focusing so much on work that I never have time to go on vacations and stuff. And it's expensive too, man. If you think about it, I'd love to go visit Europe. I want to go to the land of my ancestors. That's northern Italy. You're not too far from there, are you?
I'm really close to northern Italy because Austria is above Italy, and
Yeah.
Austria is really small. Like I'm in Italy in maybe a 2 hour car ride. I'm not in Italy. I'm
Oh,
really close. Yeah.
nice. That's awesome. So yeah, my family's all from there, and it's beautiful. But on the other hand, when my parents, I don't want to. I want to leave a legacy for my children, and Bitcoin is just a perfect vessel for that because it's only going to spread, especially like new podcasters making new Bitcoin content. I think from day to night, one day, you're going to have hundreds of thousands, if not millions of listeners because everyone will come to Bitcoin when they realize what it is. It's so simple. It's digital scarcity and people are going to flock to us. So all the podcasters will do well. Bitcoin number obviously is going to go up forever because it's perfectly or ultimately scarce. It's even more scarce than gold. So it's going to be great for everyone, I think.
Amazing. And do you have like from Brazil? I thought that you are from Italy because your name sounds Italian. Like I can spot Italians really great because I already had a few Italians on the show. And you came from like you did not came you were basically born in America, but your mother came from Brazil. Like how did this end up?
Yeah, so she was a lawyer in Brazil, and she once she grew up, she realized what Brazil was, and that's why I never have any kind of Brazilian hubris because I'm not. It's not my culture. Ultimately, I didn't grow up there. I grew up here. America is my culture, but she came here for a better life. In Brazil, it's very poor. It's not a prosperous country like Europe, America, Canada, Australia, everybody wants to be in those countries because the economy is so great. And you open any business, it's amazing. I have a side hustle with my wife. You open any business and it booms, especially if you focus your energy and your time in it. Did your business just grows here, and just like Europe too, Australia, it's all like that. It's great, thriving, prosperous economies. And Brazil, the most important thing I think though she came here is because Brazil isn't safe. It's murder rate through the roof, drug trafficking, the wars on drugs. They have firefights all the time. Gunfights all the time in the streets. It's not like close to Mexico, at least in southern Brazil, where I was born. It's mostly Italians and Germans there. I'm 10% German too, according to my DNA test. But um, I've always had a question. Sorry, I don't mean to deviate from the subject, but so do Austrians consider themselves Germans, or I'm sorry, please forgive my ignorance.
Austrians definitely don't consider themselves Germans. It's like, I mean, like Germans and Austrian are really similar people. Especially there is in Germany, there's Bavaria, which is really big. It's bigger than Austria itself, and they're really close to the culture of Austria. Also, the further you go to the northern Germany, the further the culture difference from Austria. I mean, it's the same people. It's they have a similar living standard. They have a similar infrastructure. They have similar laws. They have almost the same language because German and Austrian German is the same language, but it's just a little bit dirtier. I say in Austria, it's a little bit maybe dirtier is the wrong word, but it's a dialect. It's a different version of the German. So they are quite similar. And I lived in Germany for 1.5 years, and yeah, it's of course, there are differences, but there's also differences when you live in different parts of Austria, even though Austria is so small.
Right.
So people are different, and I think it's a nice like I prefer Austria just because in general, I think Austin's a little bit more chill. You have this when it's a little bit more to the south. People get a little warmer. The weather gets warmer. People are not so strict with stuff, and you can also see that constellation with North Germany and South Germany, which is really interesting to see. And yeah, it's but in general, like they are quite the same people. But of course, there are nuances to that. But yeah, it's interesting. And but if you're in Italy, if you make the Europe trip, you definitely have to come to Vienna. Vienna is the capital
I would love to.
of Austria. And some studies claim it's the best city on earth. I don't think it is.
Nice.
I don't know, but like
I've heard that before.
yeah, it's like they measure like infrastructure, clean water, stuff like that. And Vienna is really good in that. Like Vienna has like really good infrastructure, clean water, stuff like that.
Nice.
And I'm actually moving to Vienna in 1.5 months. So like if you're ever in Vienna, just hit me up. We definitely can. We can then actually make an in-person podcast. Would love to do
Podcast.
that. Yeah.
That'd be awesome, man. That'd be awesome. I dream about going to Europe. It's so beautiful, the castles, everything. But the similarities between culture too. I've done two DNA tests, 23andMe and Family Tree DNA. I remember when they gave me the results, I was surprised because they don't call it, genetically speaking, with tribes and people, they don't call it Portugal and Spain. They call it Iberia, because at some point there were one group of people, and genetically they're identified as one group of people. That's why they don't say you're either Portuguese or Spaniard, you are Iberian, when they give you the DNA test, which is really cool to see how the world is merging, man. It fills my heart with joy, because when you look at it, after the airplane was created, invented by the brilliant Wright brothers, you can see the travel maps now, especially nowadays. And you can see there's a website where you can see the increase of travel as more planes were built, more routes were made with airplane travel. It's beautiful now because you can't even see the globe with how many airplanes there are in the air, when it comes to that specific map. It's so beautiful, and people are visiting each other, people are intermarrying. I'm sure there's someone in Asia right now saying, hey, I would love to go to Austria, and then they get there, they marry a beautiful Austrian person, or the same way, an Austrian or a German or an Italian say, hey, I would love to go to Asia, somewhere random place. It's a really big continent. And then they do that and they get married. That's, people travel now and people are more intra-connected. And thanks to the internet, it's amazing, man. This magical box right here, I could talk to you. My Bitcoin logo right there. I could talk to you, at the speed of light. And we can share ideas with each other, edify each other. I can take some of your Austrian culture, you can take some of my American culture, and it's really nice how the world is. This is why war just wrecks my heart, man. It's something that we really need to end it. And I love Jason P. Lowery's book about soft war. I know, I'm sorry, it's very controversial. Some people don't like it. Some people say he's a spook. That's fine. You're entitled to your opinion. God bless you. But I think it's great because more and more people are going to make war in Bitcoin with hash rate. And it's going to be beautiful. And we're watching that as we speak. We can't see it because we're puny humans. We're tiny and we don't see the grand scheme of things. Like we think in 80 years lifespan, 90 years lifespan, because that's when we're born, raised, and pass away. But Bitcoin is thinking, well, Bitcoin doesn't care, but when we think about Bitcoin, it's the grand scheme of things, hundreds and thousands of generations that are going to come and go and benefit from Bitcoin. And Bitcoin, I think, is going to cause world peace too. There's several reasons why Bitcoin is pure peace. It's because people will hash it out, as we say in America, hash it out. They'll, instead of fighting the actual physical force, they'll fight with hash rate. And also the liberty and freedom that it provides for people, it's priceless. It's completely priceless because people can travel. They can memorize 12 to 24 words, and I have mine memorized. I'm very proud of that, and I encourage, if anything today that you're getting from this podcast, I encourage that you memorize your seed so you can be truly sovereign. And the way I record my seed plate, sorry, I'm going everywhere. The way I record my seed plate is I record the first 11 words and the 12th I leave it out, and I put it on myself as my responsibility to memorize it and recite it every day. When I'm working, driving, I'm thinking full attention in the road, but I'm also reciting my words, very quietly. And so that embeds your Bitcoin in your brain. And now, God forbid something happens, I have nothing but my person, my children, my wife. We could go anywhere and start fresh and new. And that's the beauty of Bitcoin too. So tyrants can't put a gun to your head and say, hey, give me your Bitcoin. First of all, that's anti-constitutional. But second of all, it's just impossible. You can say, hey, man, I was in a dirt bike accident in Nebraska in a cornfield. I'm sorry, I lost it all. And it's true. How can they prove that? Mind reading? That's asinine. That's ridiculous. So I truly thank God for Bitcoin, man.
Yeah, and you touched on so many great things right there, and I think with Brain Wallet, I think the most amazing, but you still have it on a seat, like on a plate or something like that, yeah, because I think this is important to mention, because some people might say like, oh, great, I have it in my Brain Wallet. Then something happens to their brain, or like they forget it or whatever, and then they don't have it anymore. So like it's really good to memorize your seed phrase, and you should definitely 100% do that. Like it's great that you are doing that. There are even like I encourage people, if you can, make a story with it, or kind like
Yes.
there are like so many great ways you can memorize your seed phrase. Don't speak it out loud. Don't write the story down somewhere
There are
online.
cameras everywhere
Yeah,
nowadays.
there,
Cameras and mics listening to people. Don't never say it out loud. Yeah.
and definitely don't save it anywhere online. Like don't write it in like some drafts, or like somewhere online in a
Yeah,
Google
that.
Docs.
Oh my God. Yeah, that reminds me of that gentleman in X Twitter. It broke my heart, man, when he told his story. I don't even want to repeat it. It's awful, but somebody basically hacked into the Google Drives or whatever and took more than 20 Bitcoin, and it's heartbreaking, heart wrenching. And he's just a champ, man. He goes to show how Bitcoin, no matter what, makes people hopeful, joyful, blissful. It makes people, that's how we're meant to live. According to religion, we're supposed to be happy and be grateful to God. And Bitcoin just helps you with that, because it makes you truly joyful, because you're self-sovereign and you're free and you have true liberty. But yeah, it's very important to write it down. Absolutely.
100%. And you also mentioned Software, the book. I could not read it till now. It bothers me that I did not read it actually, but I definitely plan to do it. And what resonated with that book with you? Like I heard a lot about that. I heard a lot about what different people think about it. I think it's another great way to explain Bitcoin. Like definitely this is it definitely resonated with a lot of people. But what did resonate in that book with you the most?
So that's the beauty of Bitcoin too. Bitcoin isn't just one thing. It's a million things to billions of different people, just like the internet. For me, maybe internet is for work. For my daughter, it's for school. For my wife, it's for work. It's for some families who are immigrants, it's their means of communication with their family. And it's beautiful that they communicate now. But just like the internet, Bitcoin is many things to many different people. I read only part of the book, to be honest. What I really enjoyed was Breedlove's. I recommend everybody check out Breedlove, the What Is Money show. And I listened to the whole Seyr series many times. And Saylor's brilliant. He's amazing. And I listened to the Jason Lowry podcast, the full series as well. And I went back and actually played it back several times very slowly so I could capture everything. And then so my favorite part is basically Bitcoin is peace. It's a kind of it's an online war that's going to quell the human inclination for power. So people are going to fight in the Bitcoin network instead of actually killing each other physically. So that's the beauty of Bitcoin for me. That's what I got from that book specifically. There were many other things that don't come to mind now, but it's a great series and people should listen to it.
Yeah, and I think Breedlove Sailor series. I think he started his podcast with that. That's an absolute must watch. Like this is something like that. It's like the Bitcoin standard. It's like one of
Hmm.
those. If you want to deep dive in Bitcoin, like this is where you have to go. And what I wanted to ask you, like I think 10 minutes ago or something like that, where we drifted off, we talked about the great countries with the Western countries like America, Europe, Canada, Australia, and stuff like that. And you said like there's a lot of prosperity there, and I feel like it's still true, but I also see a little bit of change there when we see, for example, El Salvador. We see other countries that are coming slowly up and giving people more safety there, more freedom there. Do you see, or even like we have more and more examples where also people in big cities in prosperous countries are not safe because there is also yeah, there's also like crime going on, of course, not comparable to other ones. And also like when we talk about El Salvador and stuff like that, they started from the bottom, like started from the bottom. Now they're fighting their way up. But how do you see this whole world game theory now playing out? And it's like, where do you see it going?
Yeah, it's funny that the lives of Bitcoiners is actually better than TV. It's better than Netflix because we're watching the world play out. We're watching history and we know we're watching it and you can see it live every day. That's why I love the fact that it speaks several languages so I can listen to different channels at different time, get different world perspectives. But um, El Salvador is a perfect example, right? People, they migrated here, mass migration from El Salvador here to America. And now they found that people are staying there more after Nayib Bukele actually made the streets safer. But that's the incentives. When you change it, humans have a specific nature. And there's no changing human nature. That's what communism tried to do. They pretend human nature isn't a thing, human greed isn't a thing, and they try to implement forcefully something terrible that ends up in hundreds of millions of deaths. So the beauty of Bitcoin is that it latches on to human nature and it makes the whole society better. As an example, Nayib Bukele started imprisoning gang members. Now they have prisons filled with those gang members, and the streets all of a sudden are safe for law-abiding people, for good family people. Now they're walking more often in the street, the kids are playing, and the commerce is way better. There's no racketing, there's no, blackmail when it comes. There probably still is somewhere, but for the most part, I mean, he made El Salvador go from one of the most dangerous countries to the of the world to the safest, one of the safest countries in the world. Can you believe that? It wasn't Nayib Bukele. It was the incentives of Bitcoin. And I think that's a small example. They're trailblazers for what it's going to happen to countries in Africa, countries in Asia. There's some places in Africa, it's warlord after warlord, and it's very sad. People don't understand why Africans go to Europe en mass migration, because Europe is beautiful. We should be flattered because our countries are much safer. That's why they're coming here. So I do have a lot of compassion for people who get on boats and just go. They put their lives at risk to be somewhere beautiful, safe, where they can be happy. But I think now with Bitcoin is going to change the incentives. Warlords are not going to be able to have power because money is power, and money is issued by said warlords, and money is issued by the banksters they're in bed with. And the beauty of Bitcoin is that it's going to be grassroots. It's going to be natural. Again, playing with that human nature. It's going to go from bottom to up for everybody. It's going to be grassroots. The people are going to adopt it. They already are. If you look at I just posted an image on X Twitter, and it showed I think I got it from you actually, that Africa map that has the all the, what do you call it, the Bitcoin ecosystem that's growing. You can see it's booming everywhere now, and it's going to spread naturally, and people are going to be safer because they can just leave with their Bitcoin. You want to take my house? Fine. You want to take my gold? Fine. Whatever. I don't even have any gold anyways. Everything is in my brain. They're not going to say that, but expressing that, and they'll just move and they'll leave. So the tyrants, will eventually be taken out of power, and actual good people are going to be in leadership positions. And that's what Bitcoin does. It's beautiful because it's the opposite of communism. Actually, Bitcoin, I say it's the antidote to communism because it's impossible for a state to confiscate your money. Yeah, I love saying this, and I posted it so many times. Like, I sound like a broken record, but it's because it's true. Bitcoin is uninflatable by banksters, incorruptible by politicians. It's decentralized, works 24/7 every single day for anyone in any geographical location of the world. So people can just take their things and say, all right, goodbye, man, I'm going. And they have everything in their brain. And that's what I think Bitcoin is generating, a safer world, less asylum seeking migration from dangerous places as those places become safer with Bitcoin. And people who might not know or study Bitcoin, they might say, oh, this is crazy. He's saying Bitcoin is a cure all, end all. It's not that. It's because when you actually know what Bitcoin is, it's a decentralized ledger throughout the globe. And that's pretty much what humans have been using for hundreds of thousands of years. It was ledgers where there was those large stones where they etched the things and who owned what part of the stone. That's what Bitcoin is. And it's verified by hundreds of thousands of nodes worldwide. And so it's immutable. It can't be changed by or manipulated by anyone, be it a hacker or be it a tyrant. It's immutable. That's the beauty of Bitcoin. It makes me so happy, man.
That's amazing, and I think this is what Bitcoin solves. Like, or like differently asked, is that what Bitcoin is the main thing? What Bitcoin fixes is property rights, bringing for 8 billion people the right to actually have their own financial energy. Is that the main thing that Bitcoin fixes, and all those other things are just consequences of it?
Yes, and the consequences of Bitcoin are all beautiful, but that's the main thing it fixes, giving people their freedom and liberty back. Yeah.
Amazing, and I think this is very true and really really beautiful what you just said. And you mentioned, I remember in the early that you also very passionate about religion, and that you're passionate about religion, and I observed that with a lot of my podcast guests that they are in religion a lot. What do you think is the connection there? Like, why are people? Obviously, not everyone in Bitcoin is religious. Not everyone in Bitcoin is Christian. Not every, like, obviously, but I see a great value comparison there. Where do you see the connection between Bitcoin and religion, or is there even one?
Yeah, I've pointed it down to, and I've thought about this. That's a great question, man. Basically, what religion is doing is, first of all, it's embedded in the human DNA. People who say that religion is bad, no, it's literally embedded in our DNA. If we don't worship God, we're going to worship the sun. If we don't worship the sun, we're going to worship our car. If we don't worship our car, we're going to worship a woman, or vice versa. And so the beauty of religion is that it is a natural thing, and the whole point of it, and this is where it connects to Bitcoin, religion is only trying to bring harmony with society. So instead of fighting, humans will be more united because we are a social creature after all. Religion just, it's the glue that glues people together, and it brings people together. And you can see that in almost 2 billion Muslims, and you can see that in almost, I forgot how many billion questions. Is it almost 3 billion now? I forgot. Something like that. But you can see it brings billions of people together as one thought, one mind. And the beauty of Bitcoin, that's the next thing. Bitcoin is gluing Hinduism, Christianity, Judaism, Islam into one family. That's why I say BTC fam, because we're one people. We're all the same genetic sequence. We're all the same species. We're the same race. That's the beauty of Bitcoin. It's bringing people together. And also, if some people want to be isolated, by all means, take your Bitcoin and go, whatever. But I think that the world is merging and it's inevitable. And Bitcoin is what is bringing all religions together. It's the ultimate peacemaker. It's the ultimate glue of society. Even though some Christians might say, "Oh, you're not really a Christian." I have Bible verses memorized. I spent my teenage years with my face in the floor, praying for hours. My mom remembers. I met my wife. She still goes to church 4 days a week. She's a she prays every night. We read the Bible together every single night without missing a heartbeat. We read the Bible together. I read it for my children. So I'm a Christian, you could say, but above all, I'm a human. And Bitcoin is just bringing humans together. It's fixing the issues of the world when it comes to warfare and fighting.
And building up on that, how do you imagine then Bitcoin standard looking like if we are not like a special group, an elite group where we have Bitcoin, but it's like the whole world has Bitcoin in some extent, like as a store value, or they're using it for transactions, whatever they're using, but we are kind of in a Bitcoin standard. Is the world changing? Is the world coming closer together because of that? Or what does it, how do you imagine a Bitcoin standard looking like?
Yeah. So, and obviously, I don't think it's going to change tomorrow. You know, people are not going to merge in within a generation or two. I think it takes hundreds of years, but Bitcoin is the great push. You know, it's the great winner for humanity. It's the ultimate trophy that we will have to be able to one day expand to outer space. I know this sounds woo-woo, but eventually humanity wants to inoculate other habitable planets, but for that we need to travel at the speed of light, yada, yada, yada. But if people stop fighting, they'll have more leisure time to invent, to be more constructive. When humans get together, we construct beautiful things. And so the way I think Bitcoin is going to play out in society, I think it's very simple. It's going to be a ledger. You know, let's say I go to Austria and I stay in your house. I'll change the ledger to say, hey, 1 million Satoshis, the Bitcoin blockchain will change. 1 million Satoshis was sent from Henry's wallet to Robin's wallet. And now you have 1 million Satoshis because you provided a service for me or a good, whether you fed me or whatever. But you name the millions and trillions of examples that it could be, people exchanging goods and services, exchanging value. Bitcoin is just going to be a ledger. It's switching value here, switching value there. It's going from place to place without a centralized middleman party. Like that, we like to say here in America, cut the middleman. Just cut the middleman, go straight to the source. That's what Bitcoin does with money. It cuts off the tyrants. It cuts off the people trying to control us, and it makes humans be in harmony with each other. It synchronizes the human race together, wherever you want to live, wherever you want to be. It brings people together in a way that they're not going to fight over resources anymore because they can just exchange goods and services with Bitcoin. So that's the great equalizer.
I told you a lot about 21 Bitcoin, the best place for me to buy Bitcoin directly on a Bitcoin only exchange. But now let's talk about how to secure your Bitcoin. Once you got Bitcoin, you don't want to leave them on exchange. You want to take self custody. You want to take responsibility of your own Bitcoin. That's why I recommend getting a BitBox. BitBox is an amazing wallet where you can not only keep your Bitcoin in a simple way, very secure, you can even create a passphrase. With that passphrase, you can basically create a hidden wallet on the device itself. Make sure to buy your BitBox in the link down in the description, and with code Robin, you even get a 5% discount. When you think about your Bitcoin story, and when you think about what we talked about now in the last like 45 minutes when we are on the podcast, what do you think Bitcoin taught you that we now did not talk about? Like what do you think you got from Bitcoin that we did not talk about till now?
Yeah, I'm so sorry. My older one got home. They're making noise now. But yeah, things that we did not talk about now. Wow, it's been 45 minutes already. Oh my God, this is so fun. I didn't even, I thought it was like 5 minutes. That's beautiful, man. What we did not talk about, let's see, it's taking power away from tyrants, even though we already talked about that. There's so many things now. I'm going to be working tomorrow, and it's going to come to mind. I'm going to be like, oh, why didn't I mention this in the Robin Seyr podcast? You know, oh man, things are going to go down in value. You know, goods and services are going to go back to how does Jeff Booth put it? Commodities go back to their value of production. How is it he says? I forgot.
I forgot how he said it, but I think utility value, you can say that everything is going down to the value they should be, and this is something very true. And I think especially with housing, people will recognize that housing will be affordable once they start adopting Bitcoin, because you have this
Exactly.
beautiful chart where you see houses and then you see the different years they were in, and then you see the dollar prices, and then you see the Bitcoin prices, and you see that houses obviously is a better store of value than dollars. Of course, like dollars are printed so much, houses cannot keep up with that printing, and even though they are getting worse, even a bad house that gets worse over 10 years will be worth more because of the excessive money printing. But then we come to Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the scarcest asset, the best asset on planet Earth, the best place for your financial energy. And measured in that, houses are crashing since 2009, and they are keep crashing and keep crashing. And this is something beautiful, not because it boils down the investors of real estate or something like that. It's just beautiful because it makes housing affordable. It makes housing accessible for everyone again. And this is, I think, this is the most exciting thing for the next like 10, 20 years. I'm looking forward that Bitcoin actually makes things affordable again if you adopt the Bitcoin standard. If you don't adopt the Bitcoin standard, you will see a Bitcoin price, you will regret it, and it will be it will be
Oh
interesting to
yeah.
see. Yeah.
People, it's going to come to the point where half of the world population have adopted Bitcoin. That's going to be extremely exponential because people have no choice, because they'll see, oh my God, my house is going down against Bitcoin. My car is going down against Bitcoin. My gold is going down against Bitcoin. I need to get into this before it's too late. And it's going to be the FOMO in the human nature of people, because FOMO is human nature. I remember being a little kid and wanting to play outside. My grandma wouldn't let me go for a reason or two. And I remember watching the kids from the window and having that FOMO. So FOMO is a natural human thing. And I think that people will start to look into Bitcoin more and more because they'll have no option. Their family members are going to be talking about it, their coworkers. And it's crazy, man. It's heartbreaking. You see new families that want to start their lives and they're paying triple of the price of the houses here in America for a regular average American home. For example, in 2018, I first bought my house, $98,000. It's not a big house. It's about 1,200 square feet. My basement's finished. My neighbor bought for almost the same price, and it's the same exact house, except I have a carport, so maybe it has a little bit more value. But it went from $98,000. My neighbor just sold his house for $260,000. So potentially I could sell it for 260, 280, and it's ridiculous. Their family now is starting anew, fresh with the kids, and they want to give them a good a good fun home, safe home where they feel safe and play and build memories forever. And now people can't do that because prices are too expensive, not to mention interest rates. It's another thing about Bitcoin. There's no gimmicks or spells like that. There's no magic tricks. It's just Bitcoin is. It just is. And you follow the protocol. It's a simple, the white paper says it perfectly. It's a simple 10-minute read. And there's no gimmicks in Bitcoin. And people, when you look to the central banks, they hike interest rate, lower interest rate, issue bonds. And, there's the stock market where you have to be an investor to save money if you want, because you can't save cash because cash is devaluing exponentially. And that's for the whole world, even though the Brazilian real is devaluing faster. The Argentine peso is devaluing way quicker, to the point of Bitcoin is like 36 million pesos, which is ridiculous. Reminding everyone that in the 90s, one Argentine peso was $1, and now it's like ridiculous. Hundreds and hundreds of dollars takes to buy. I'm sorry, hundreds and hundreds of pesos take to buy a dollar. So people are not going to save in cash. You can't. You have to save in stocks, and it's a gimmick, another gimmick of the society we live in. That we need to have a rule of sorts without a ruler. Rules without a ruler. That's Bitcoin, and it provides a decentralized solution for all of society. And people that are starting their lives now, even rent is skyrocketed. My friend, he rented an apartment for $1,300-$1,400, and that's just a rent, not heating included, not air conditioning including, not electricity or water. And so it's crazy, because back in the day, that apartment would be $850, $900. And so I think Bitcoin is, especially for the young adopters, or I'm sorry, the early adopters, Bitcoin will be, people like to say, oh, he'll be a millionaire, or he'll be a multimillionaire, he'll be rich. Don't value things in terms of dollars, because the dollar is a bad rule, or any fiat currency. It's a bad ruler to measure things. You have to measure things in terms of a commodity that is decentralized and that is outside of the control of any one tyrant. So Bitcoin is the perfect ruler to for humans to measure things in.
Definitely, I say that all the time when someone is like, "Oh, can I be rich when I have Bitcoin and stuff like that?" I'm like, "Yes, you will be a Satoshi millionaire. You can be even if you want to be, you can even be a Satoshi billionaire, depending
Yeah.
on the purchasing power you have right now." And this is something powerful. I think we have to make the switch to the unit of account, but it's hard because we have those adoption phases of money. Like money is like collectible, then store of value, and we are now in the store of value phase, and it will go on for a long period of time till we get to medium of exchange, real adoption of medium of exchange, where everybody is adopting Bitcoin, and they're paying with Bitcoin at the restaurants, and everybody's doing that. There are certain areas of the world where this is already true, but it's
Hmm.
really small and niche, and there's like in Italy the Bitcoin Valley, there's in El Salvador Bitcoin Beach, El Sonte, El Salvador in general, there's Lugano in Swiss. Like there are small places where you can do that, but it's nothing on the global scale. It's so tiny till now. But back to the money printing, I think this is a point we have to hammer home so many times till everybody gets it. Do you think money printing is theft?
Yes, it absolutely is theft. Is the definition of theft, or one of the many definitions of theft. It's stealing from people. And the worst of all, it's that it's a silent theft that people don't realize it. All of a sudden you have $10,000. When I met my wife, she was a saver. She is very frugal. I got very fortunate. I love my wife. She's the one that made me an investor, or a saver, let's say. She used to save in cash. And I one day explained to her about inflation. She was like, oh my God, really? I'm like, yeah, honey, they print money willy nilly out of thin air. It's not backed by gold anymore. It's not backed by silver. It's not backed by anything. They just print a paper and force you to use it. So it's natural. People are going to come into Bitcoin naturally. It's not going to be, underwater chess, like you can see, like you were saying, it's so beautiful. You see these communities now turning into cities adopting Bitcoin, turning into states. And within the next 50 to 100 years, maybe less, it's going to be states turning into country as Bitcoin users. You can see the ecosystem in Africa is beautiful. So many peer-to-peer exchanges that you can use worldwide. And now you can have VPNs and say that you're in Switzerland when you're in Canada, and websites that are allowed in certain places are allowed in others. You can use VPN, though I don't advise anyone to break the law of your state. Obey the law. Anyways, you can see the growth live. That's why I think it's going to be faster than people think, because it's live happening. Life goes slow, right? Life goes really slow in our perspective, but really everything is going very fast. I think that it's going to be faster than we realize, the Bitcoin adoption, and soon we're going to be seeing whole countries using it even as a settlement layer, and people are going to start opting out of Swift because they seize nations states money and they just take it and give it to whomever they want. That's not fair. It's literally not fair. And so, stealing somebody's things, or money or monetary value, and giving to a whole person that doesn't belong to, that's what Bitcoin fixes too. Like I say, Bitcoin is so many things to so many different people. If I were to list them all, we'd be here for, 48, 72 hours, even more. And it's so beautiful because it's giving the power back to the people. And it's so man, I love it. I love it.
Yeah, that's amazing. What do you expect from this epoch? Like we think a lot about this epoch thinking in Bitcoin when the halving is coming, and we recently had the halving, and now we're starting the fifth epoch of Bitcoin. Basically, like kind of the next 4 years or the next 210,000 blocks, whatever time chain you are using. What do you expect from this next fifth epoch? I think the last epoch, just to summarize it a little bit for the people, is like we had the first publicly traded company with MicroStrategy coming in. Now we have like 60 or 80 or I don't know how many publicly traded companies are already in. We have nations that came in. We have so many great things with the
The
Bitcoin ETF.
ETF too.
The ETF is also a big one. Like we have so many great things happening in one epoch. How does this, like, what do you expect from the next epoch? What's the next step to Bitcoin in the next like 4 years?
Oh man, I think it's beautiful, which is why I'm telling people buy Bitcoin, enter this Bitcoin community because we're all humans. We're the human community growing more and more. Come in, get off zero, as Luke Broyle says. Just get off zero. If you allocate 1% of your assets or investments into Bitcoin, it's zero. You got off zero. And now if Bitcoin goes exponentially up, you'll have a nice leg up on everybody. But what I think I expect for this specific epoch now, sorry about that, just like the first epoch, or I'm sorry, just like the second epoch was better than the first, the third epoch better than the second, the fourth epoch better than the third, I think this epoch is going to be even better. And that's what we call the bright orange future, because it's always so beautiful and bright when it comes to Bitcoin. It's going to be things that surprised everyone, in the last epoch. So many things that surprised people happened. It happened. It's possible with Bitcoin. The impossible is nothing with Bitcoin. And so, for example, the ETF. People don't understand this fact. When a gold ETF was approved in 2004, within the next decade, it brought in more than $9 trillion into gold, the market cap. People don't understand this. So now the Bitcoin ETF is approved. What do people think it's going to happen? It's going to happen exactly that, but it's going to be dozens of trillions, hundreds of trillions are going to come into Bitcoin. And I think a lot of it is going to happen this epoch. So that's what I'm expecting for this epoch. It's going to be even beautiful than the first epochs.
Amazing. You were in Bitcoin the last epoch, I think, already. Like, how did did any way, like when I think about, like, I started getting into Bitcoin right at the start of the last epoch in 2020,
Nice.
and the first time I heard about Bitcoin, it was so different that I thought about it than it is now. And I'm always curious how people, like, when they are long in the game, they are thinking differently about Bitcoin and they're evolving their thinking. Like, can you maybe like give us some thoughts, some imagination how you thought about first of Bitcoin and how this changed in the last like 2, 3, 5, whatever years?
Absolutely, man. When everyone has a girlfriend or a boyfriend and there's that in love phase, and everyone is, they're euphoric. They don't know what's going on around them. All they can think about is each other. That's, humans coming together to make little humans. I remember that time, that in love time never ends with Bitcoin. It just draws you in deeper into the rabbit hole, and it doesn't stop. And all you can talk about is Bitcoin. So the when I first got into Bitcoin, it's around your time, but you adopted it faster than I did. It's April 2021. My childhood friend Diogo, shout out, love you, man. My childhood friend Diogo came over with Stefan and his brother, my childhood friends too. And Diogo was like, "Hey, let's start investing," because he's always been a very responsible guy. He was working since he was 15, and I think like me, he never really saved. I don't know, but he said, "You know what? Let's start now, because in 30 years we can be millionaires and enjoy ourselves in a boat, retire early, etc., etc." So we made that pact in April 2021. And I remember being in Robinhood, and I remember finding this thing called Bitcoin, and it had done this. It had gone from $10,000 to $69,000. I'm like, "Oh, what is this?" I waited a little bit. And I remember it dipped to 64,000, and everyone says, buy the dip, buy the dip, buy the dip. And so I did. I started buying increments of $100, and I've posted it to Twitter X. And I remember reading about what it was, because many investors tell you never invest in something that you don't know. So I started looking into Bitcoin, and I really love podcasts and I really love audiobooks. I listen to books all the time. And so I remember studying Bitcoin, and then I started to find Saylor, Breedlove. Saylor had already adopted the Bitcoin strategy for MicroStrategy. Those who don't know, MicroStrategy was like, it is a software company, a thriving, a very good one. It used to compete with Microsoft. Microsoft then outgrew everything else in the stock market, but that's what MicroStrategy is. It's a software engineering company. And I remember listening to Saylor, and then I found Breedlove, and then I listened to his podcast. And then when you realize, when, like you said, the Saylor series on the What Is Money show from Breedlove is very important to listen to, because it tells you exactly what Bitcoin is in about 9, 10, maybe 12 episodes. But I remember falling in love with Bitcoin, and that never ended, by the way. But so what I thought about Bitcoin then was something that was going to make me rich, NGU, number go up. And it kind of did. It kind of did, but that's not why I'm in it anymore. I mean, it's such a tiny reason why I'm in it. It's to give a better future for my children. As you go along, the way I think about now as opposed to back then is that I don't care anymore about the NGU, even though it's nice and we make fun of it. That's why when Bitcoin dips, I don't care. It just dipped from 73,000 to 62. I'm like, oh man, nice. I can buy more Bitcoin. Sweet. And Friday comes and I buy some more. But the way I think of it now compared to the beginning is that Bitcoin is here to fix the problems of humanity. That's what Bitcoin's here for. It is to take away the power from tyrants, killers, because that's what they are, because they start wars all the time. It's to take away power from their hands, to destroy, obliterate the bankster cartel, because they're basically cartels. And there's the bigger cartels and the smaller cartels. One of the cartels just failed, allegedly. I guess this past weekend, another bank failed and got bought out by JP Morgan or something. Don't quote me on that. Probably JP Morgan, but it's obliterating the mafias. It's taking power away from the tyrants and giving it back to whom it belongs. That's the whole point of the Constitution. A government by the people, for the people, of the people. And that's what the Declaration of Independence was. And Bitcoin is for humanity. It's a declaration of independence for humanity without violence, without blood. I'm being careful with my words, because YouTube sometimes it gets picky about that. But so yeah, Bitcoin is pure peace. It's packed peace, and it's a way to channel energy at the speed of light across the globe anytime you want, without middlemen.
100%. It's so beautiful and so cool to listen to, and how you describe it. It's fascinating to see, like, you can basically pick on Twitter any real Bitcoiner, put it on a podcast, and he will be great to listen to, like, and to learn from.
Thank you.
That's basically my idea of the podcast. And I think we discovered so many great people already, and thank you also for being on. I just wanted to say that, because you
Thank you.
really describe it really, really cool. Before we get to our end routine, where do you think Bitcoin will be in the end of the cycle? And you don't have to have a price prediction, because I don't think it's good to think in dollar terms. If you have, it's also good. But is it like, you have like, oh, for one Bitcoin you will have like certain amount of houses you can buy? It's like we like the purchasing power of Bitcoin is kind of an health indicator like an indicator of how many people already understand it. And if you have more adoption and the ETF is coming, do you have any model in your head where Bitcoin could be in the end of this cycle? Obviously there's like this halving thing, where the first halving it was like only one number, then two and three, and now we are like five, and we probably will be at six when we measure it in US dollars. Do you have something like that?
Yeah, it's amazing that Bitcoin works like clockwork. It's perfect. It doesn't skip a beat. Every 10 minutes, a new block is found. Every 10 minutes, it just keeps auditing itself by hundreds of thousands of people worldwide. So, like clockwork, the Bitcoin price, the health indicator, has shown to go up exponentially after every halving. Now, the difference for those who don't know, for this new halving, the number did a new all-time high before the halving, which makes me think that it there's a chart I posted on Twitter X of four epochs and showing exactly after the block halving reward or the yeah, it went up exponentially, like double, triple the price. And so this is going to happen in the greater scale, in my opinion. It usually happens months after, like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 months after the halving, and it just grows exponentially. I think this epoch is not any different. That's what's going to happen. I think potentially, it could be. We were at 73 last month, and I think Bitcoin could well go. It's gonna skyrocket past 120. It's gonna just keep going. I don't know where it's gonna stop and then come down a little bit again, but I would be willing to say at $200,000 Bitcoin, that's what's gonna be, and it's gonna drive more people to buy Bitcoin because of FOMO. They see it in the news everywhere, in every program, every entertainment, every Instagram or every YouTube influencer talking about this thing, Bitcoin, like that dude that lost the Bitcoin, or he sold it when it went down and then he freaked out and he's angry now. But it's going to be everyone. That's going to be every influencer. And they're going to be talking about it nonstop. And that's what brings people are just going to FOMO into Bitcoin. Here in America, I don't know in Europe, but here you can buy Bitcoin anywhere, man. You can buy it in Venmo. Have you ever heard of Venmo?
Yeah, I heard about it because I'm on Twitter, but in Europe, I never heard it.
You probably have a different one. My family in Brazil has something called Pix, and we have Venmo, PayPal. They already allow you to buy it for over a year now. There's so many different options here. Every stock trading platform like Robinhood, Moomoo, Webull, you can buy Bitcoin. So it's going to be very easy for people to just go on their phone. Again, the magic little box. They're going to go there and they're going to get, you know what, I'm just going to get some just in case. That's what they think. And then Bitcoin does another exponential, like, oh my God, and then it goes down and people sell, So the main thing with Bitcoin is if you're not looking to hold it for at least 4 years, don't buy any, don't get any. If you're going to be trading, that's not a good idea. People get wrecked more than anything in Bitcoin because it's very volatile. And just like life is volatile. My heart's beating right now. It could stop and I could die. My heart's volatile. Every single aspect of the universe, of the earth that has life, is volatile. A wind can blow a tree down, the tree dies. The bird gets the fish from the water, the fish everything is volatile. Things that are living is volatile. So Bitcoin is the same way. It's going to be the next step in the evolution of human civilization. It's if you want to compare it to innovations, it's akin to fire, to big things like the wheel. It's akin to electricity being discovered, invented. It's akin to motor vehicles. It's akin to flight that interconnected the whole world. So that's what Bitcoin is. And I think many people are going to start to understand that, especially thanks to you, people like you that, you go on YouTube and you put your content out there, and that's getting referred to many different YouTube people. And so they're like, oh, let me see what this is, and they start listening. They learn about Bitcoin. There's so many Bitcoin podcasts out there, and I love it. The more Bitcoin podcasts, the better it is. So people can hear the truth and reality of money. That money shouldn't be printed out of thin air. It's thanks to you people, you guys, the podcasters that are spreading this message, because podcasting is the future. You can see here the spectators or audience of the corporate media going down and down and down and down. And you can see podcasting going boom. Like I used to listen to Joe Rogan podcast when it was like 2013, 2014. His daughters were tiny. They were running around the living room, and he had about like 10 or 12 spectators. I was one of those. And I remember just watching one day and hearing that he had 10 million downloads every single episode. It's up to like 15 million or something, which is crazy. Joe Rogan is just a small example or a big example of people or podcasts becoming more popular with people. So that go back to I'm going back to the thing I told you earlier. Your podcast eventually is going to blow up, just like every single Bitcoin podcast out there, because people are going to be thirsty for truth.
I definitely hope that. I can see that, and it's already like growing really really quickly. I started it basically this year in the starting. I mean, December was the official start, but I did not start growing till January in the middle. And I had 200 followers back then. Now I had 3,200
Nice,
at the
nice.
time of the recording.
Do you think that coincides with the Bitcoin price? Because I feel like a lot of Bitcoin podcasts grow when Bitcoin price grows, so FOMO brings in people.
I have no clue because I just started right now. I started Twitter when it was like end of 2022, which was really, really good time of starting because it was like at the bear market. And since then, since I started posting and speaking publicly about Bitcoin, Bitcoin was basically just going up. Of course, there were like downturns, crashes, and I don't see any patterns with the price and my videos. I see more patterns when I do a better job in the thumbnail and the title
Yeah,
because there,
of
there,
course.
there are a lot of Bitcoiners out there, a lot more than 3,000 Bitcoiners out there that are thirsty for Bitcoin content, even if the price is down 20%. Like, even if the price is now crashing, sometimes maybe it increases even the viewership because people want to know, oh, is Bitcoin still a thing? Is Bitcoin actually good? Maybe a crash down 20% is good. I think for people like in the podcast and entertainment and creator and education scene, there's like you always have the standard people that just want to get educated, want to listen to the show, but you on top of that you have when the price swings a lot, and I think it doesn't even matter if it goes up or down, but it just has to swing so it's in the news. Then new people come in because then they're like, oh, Bitcoin is crashing, let's check out Bitcoin, let's Google Bitcoin on YouTube and stuff like that. So I think as we say, the price brings people in, the price brings also people, of course, in the podcast. And I I play a long game. I started a podcast now, and I will do it till I die.
Nice.
This is a promise I can give everyone. I don't know if I
That's why
can.
you're going to succeed. That's why, because you're going to be consistent.
Yes, 100%. I don't know if I can do it 7 times a week my whole life, but I will do it every week. And I will do every week podcast episodes. I hope I can do it every day. I hope I can get to this level where I can just do it every day, record once, maybe have a production team that takes care of the editing and the post production so I can focus on new businesses and books and whatever I want to do in my life. I'm still 25, like my life is in front of me, not behind me. So I don't know what my life brings, but my plan is to do it just the whole life. I want to document my life and my thinking and my
Nice.
friends and my environment with this podcast. And right now, I'm just starting with Bitcoin, and I think Bitcoin will be this podcast will probably be a Bitcoin focused podcast for the next 10 years. At some point, Bitcoin will be boring. It's like talking about email.
Yep.
It's like talking about uh, like the TCP/IP protocol every day. Nobody wants to hear it. So at some point, Bitcoin will be so boring that I don't want to talk about it, and nobody wants to listen to it.
Because
So
everybody will have adopted it.
yeah,
Absolutely, you're right.
exactly. And when everybody adopts it and everybody uses it, why should we talk about it? So there will come this point where I probably go maybe with freedom, maybe something. I don't know. I have no clue what I will talk about that. But I'm pretty sure the next 10 years, this podcast will have the widest range of Bitcoin guests on, and it will be a Bitcoin focused podcast. And we talked also a lot about non Bitcoin stuff today, but the theme is always Bitcoin. And
Mm,
from there, we get into freedom, politics, geographically, game theory, like so many different, so many different avenues you can go through. And it's fascinating for me to see, and it's I'm feeling really humble and grateful that I am in the position that I can do it full time. I can speak full time on Bitcoin and getting paid for that. This is amazing for me, and also thank you. Like I got today some super chats because the video of Gary Cardone does great, and I just want to
Nice.
take the opportunity now to say thank you to everyone that ever gave me any satoshi, any euros with the YouTube super thanks. I hope YouTube in the future allows satoshis also to give directly to creators, but I think this will be further down the line because they also take a hefty cut. But I'm thanking everyone that gives me anything for that, because I still cannot fathom. Like it's like sometimes I'm like, I'm just streaming, I don't know what I'm doing here.
And you know what too? People need to understand. I'm sure most people understand, but when you donate or do a super chat to a podcast you love, you're supporting them, making sure they're in business. If it wasn't, the bakery wouldn't be in business if they didn't sell the bread or the pastries.
Yeah.
So you're basically giving your energy to keep that business alive, or a podcast or whatever you like. You have to make sure you donate, so you make sure that the podcast can go on. It's very, very important. It might be like not 10, not 5, maybe $1. That's all you can donate. That dollar, you multiply that by many people, and you're helping the podcast grow and get stronger and pushing the Bitcoin message out there. That's why I too highly encourage to, donations to come in, so you can keep going with this awesome job that you're doing. And it's very captivating too, man. I remember when I first saw your interviews, it was fun. You made the day fly by. So I'm always listening to your podcast. There's some others too that I love, Breed Love, so many others, you listen to every day, and it makes the day fly by, and you're learning. You're seeing, like you said, you interview anyone from any, that loves Bitcoin from any perspective of life, many aspects of life. That's why it's interesting, because you're bringing so many worldviews together, and you're giving that value, giving that information, that education to people that, a podcaster that, or a person that went in your podcast might have said something I didn't know. That's a learning moment. So I always make sure, folks, that you support the podcast that you love.
Yeah, and there will be like obviously when someone gives me just straight up money because they listen to it, and they don't get anything in return because they like received value from the podcast and they want to give value back, this is something huge. Like even if someone gives me 2 euros, it's like wow, that's
Yeah.
like huge to me. Obviously I have sponsors, so people also can like just use my codes indirectly, also gets me money and things like that. I will open a lot of indirect stuff. Also, I want to make Bitcoin clothing. I want to have something with Bitcoin messages and freedom messages. Also, writing a book. Like I will open a lot of possibilities to support that. But in general, I just want to push the Bitcoin narrative. I want to just push the Bitcoin education the next 10 years. And the great thing is, like, if some viewers getting value and they give me value back in whatever way, I can use that energy to reinvest in Bitcoin. I can have this podcast edit,
Nice.
hire someone that gives me a more professional editing and stuff like that, and thumbnails and stuff like that, so it reaches more people. I can maybe reinvest my time in newsletters and can reinvest my time in other stuff, so we can get bigger. And I think uh, it's important to support your cause. And it does not has to be me. Like if you don't watch, like if it's the first podcast and you watch some other podcaster every day, go ahead and support them. Like they are also doing the same job. Go ahead and support your favorite people that give value, that educate people, because they need to live on that at somehow. Obviously, like like you don't have to sponsor Michael Saylor or something. Like they figured
Right.
like you don't have, like if you want to do that, fine. But like even find small creators, like find people that you like, or even like that's what I like about the idea of Nostra, or like Fountain, the podcast app, because you're just like, oh, this was really nice, I want to sponsor them, I want to
I
give some
love
value back.
Fountain.
Yeah.
Fountain is my favorite. I can just zap people. Whatever value I earn there. For those who don't know, Fountain streams a little amount of Satoshis into your wallet, and you can do whatever you want with it. You can either withdraw or you can provide value to other podcasters, and that's helping them. Absolutely. And the beauty of Bitcoin is that Bitcoin pushes itself. It's amazing how Bitcoin. Sometimes I jokingly say, tongue in cheek, that I feel like Bitcoin is a living organism because it has an immune system. Bitcoin loves it when you attack it because it not only adapts, but it thrives from that information of the attack, whatever attack it was, like the China ban. China banned Bitcoin like 4 or 5 times, and they still have a huge amount of the hash rate. People are still using Bitcoin. You can't ban code. Code is speech. You can't ban speech. People are going to find a way to express themselves. So that's the beauty of Bitcoin. It pushes itself and you can be a vessel for it. And it's really beautiful because the main thing that different podcasters do is they send it to different people with different walks of life. And podcasting is the future. Everybody listens to podcasts.
And I even encourage people, if they have a message and they want to spread it and they want to be outspoken about Bitcoin, first of all, just message me, and I will love to have more and more Bitcoiners on
Nice.
board.
Yeah.
I can give you the platform. If you're true Bitcoiners, like I never like I only reject people that are about crypto and some scams. Like I
Oh
had some
yeah.
people reach
Yeah,
out to
you
me that
have
have like
to.
some. I
Yeah.
want to filter that up, but if you're a genuine Bitcoiner, I 100% want you on my podcast and give you the platform to maybe start your own YouTube channel, maybe start something else. I had Julian Boring on my show. He apparently also actually is called Boring in his last name.
I know. Yeah, it's a common last name in America.
And he was saying that he wants to be the voice of Bitcoin. He wants to like speak the audiobooks because he is such a unique voice, and I loved it. And he got after my podcast certain outreaches from other people. They're like, "Hey, can you do this audiobook? Hey, can you do this?" And this is something amazing. This is what I want to do. I want to lift up Bitcoiners that are real Bitcoiners. Because I feel I see too many shitcoiners out there.
Yeah, man. It like you said. It's kind of like a rising tide raises all ships, and that's what Bitcoin is doing. And people say, "Oh my God, Bitcoiners are so hateful. They're toxic maximalists." It's not that. It's that cryptocurrencies, and this is not according to me. It's according to Securities Exchange Commission and to many other people who lost a ton of money. Cryptocurrencies are a vast majority are Ponzi schemes, get rich quick, scams, and unregistered securities. We're not technically against cryptocurrency. It's because they're mostly scams. And the only real asset that had immaculate conception is Bitcoin. Immaculate conception because nobody knows who Satoshi is or was. Nobody knows, Satoshi released a white paper for many cypherpunks, and then he released a programming, and people downloaded the program and started running it. Satoshi wasn't even the first one to run Bitcoin. He released it, and then somebody started mining Bitcoin, and then he went in, and then that's when Halfin posted running Bitcoin, the iconic tweet that he did, and I repost it all the time. But if you're a Bitcoiner too, please make sure to run your node. It's very important. You're basically auditing the Bitcoin network every 10 minutes, 24/7. So running a node is very important too.
Amazing, and we are already like past the time we
Oh
fixed
my
for
God,
the
yeah.
podcast.
It was
It's
fun. It's super fun, man.
yeah, and let's come to the end routine. It was super fun, and I agree with that. I would love to go like 2 hours more. Maybe I'm converting more and more to a Joe Rogan type of podcast where I'm going for 4 or 5 hours. I don't know.
And
Let's
people
see.
listen to it. Believe it or not,
Yeah,
they listen to it. They're construction workers, they're fishermen, they're ambulance drivers. They listen to the podcast.
yeah, and it's great. I love it, and I think yeah, maybe I will maybe do just like 3 4 a week and just like do 5 hour blocks with people. Let's see how it goes.
The podcast that would be really cool to go like a 5-hour block was shout out to Lisa Hughes. her podcast with you was amazing. I remember being amazed. She was talking about untapped sources of energy that gets wasted, that Bitcoin can mine. And instead of wasting that energy, whatever it is, oil, natural gas, propane, anything, you can, instead of wasting it or flaring up in the air, completely destroying and wasting it, you can use Bitcoin. You can mine Bitcoin with it. And then you can channel the Bitcoin energy throughout the world to exchange goods and services.
Amazing. I loved it too. And we said that we will 100% make a part two. There are so many great topics she can talk about. Also, like, I think the topic that she would be also great to talk about is raising uncon- raising unconforming kids in a conforming world. This is the thing that she, I think, talked about in Bit Block Boom. And I think this would be also a great podcast with her. So, like, yeah, I will. This is also the next thing. I already have 106 guests on with you now. When
Thank
will
you.
I do a second round?
That'd
Because
be nice. Yeah.
there are great people that I just like had one podcast and there's like 20 different topics I want to talk with them. So like this, I appreciate that. And it will be interesting so to see there's many different directions we can go from here. But let's come to the end routine. Let's close this one down and let's have a second round with you at some point. I'm really looking forward to
I would
that one
love
already.
that. If you don't mind, before you close, you mentioned kids, and that just reminded me. I'm so sorry. I'll go fast. Be respectful of your time. It's the for those who doubt that Bitcoin is going to swallow the entire world whole. Remember, children are born, raised, educated, and live online. So even in schools now, public schools all over America, they use tablets. University they have always been using laptops to whether take notes and learn and whatever. Children are the future, like you were saying, Lisa Hughes, to learn to raise children who think for themselves. That's what I'm trying to do with my children. But also, when you instill that hope in the future generation, they're going to grow up with that hope and spread throughout the earth, and the earth is going to be a better place. So remember, children are born, educated, raised online. That's where they are. Everything's online.
100%. I love it. And I think Lisa, how do you Hughes?
Hughes.
I always said Huff, but I'm Austrian. Lisa Hughes. It's amazing what she's doing and what so many people are doing in the Bitcoin sphere. For our end routine, like we have a guest, we have a question from the previous guest to the next guest without knowing who the next guest is. Your question is an interesting one. Who is the most important person in your life, and have you taught them about Bitcoin?
The most important person in my life. That is my children. It's multiple people, but I'm gonna focus on my older one. Yes, I have talked to my daughter about Bitcoin. We talk about it after a Bible reads at night before bed, and she knows now that fiat currency is printed out of thin air. And yeah, Nair is definitely the most important person in my life. I'm in love with my daughter. She's so perfect and sweet, and I think she's gonna help improve the world. That's what I instill in her. So yeah, I have told her about many times about Bitcoin.
Amazing. Then thank you, Henry, for being on. When people have questions about you, want to reach out to you, where can people find you in the best way?
Oh, thank you. So on Twitter is best. I'm always on Twitter. I'm in Instagram too, but Twitter is Scavacini 777. SCAVA Scava CINI 777. That's my handle at Twitter.
I will keep it in the description. If you're listening on the podcast platform,
Thank
it's in the
you.
description, and if your YouTube is also in the description. If you're listening on Twitter, you can just click on the tag that I tagged you, so you will find Henry really quickly. And yeah, thank you for being on. It was a pleasure talking with you.
It's a pleasure, man. Thank you so much for having me, brother.